Hello guys, we would like to introduce you to presumably the most overpowered build in recent Path of Exile's history. This is the exploding Totem Saboteur that uses the new Crucible mod to steamroll all the content including UBERS on a truly accessible budget. We hope you can enjoy it while it lasts. The new Crucible mod introduced in patch 3.21 which makes your totems explode dealing up to 600% of their life as physical damage to enemies around it, appears to be the most interesting addition to the game. This build's main concept is to summon totems as quickly as possible to trigger those explosions. When you exceed your maximum totem limit, all existing totems will despawn, and trigger those massive explosions. If you use traps to summon them with greatly increased frequency, you will be able to cause tens of explosions per second, with your DPS reaching over 1 billion. This build can be played on many Ascendancy classes, but you should be looking mainly at ones on the upper side of the skill tree, where trap and totem nodes are located. We have chosen Saboteur for extra defensive utility, and the new Bomb Specialist passive that increases your AoE damage globally. Our setup revolves around elemental damage conversion, which would also work on Occultists and Elementalist, and there are other popular Pathfinder poison variants, and Chieftain, Juggernaut ones that convert the damage to fire element via Avatar of Fire. Your damage scales mainly with the totem life, so you should use Devouring Totem which has the highest base life out of all totem spells in the game. The explosion damage is fully converted to cold element, and then more than doubled via Heat Shiver Helmet offering simply massive DPS. On the other hand, this build is also quite tanky. You should have around 5000 maximum life, with tons of life regeneration and instant life recovery from Tinkerskin. Combined with extra armor, spell suppression, Born in the Shadows, and possibly Heartstopper from Trickster's Tree, you can comfortably farm all the content including UBERS. Totem explosions have mediocre radius, but the extra explosions from Herald skills make a big difference. It's good to very good. This build offers one of the highest possible boss DPS in the game. It's on a completely different level. With the DPS numbers you are seeing, this build should be considered a budget one. You can assemble it in under 20 divines even with the current, early league prices. This build doesn't require any specific unique items to function, but several will greatly aid you mainly in terms of mana management. Our setup revolves around using Tinkerskin with Eldritch Battery, and Heat Shiver to nearly double your DPS. Other variants based on items like Slavedriver's Hand are also popular. Tinkerskin is one of the best armors for this build, as combined with Eldritch Battery it fixes your mana issues entirely, and you also benefit from insane and instant life recovery. Heat Shiver is the best in the slot helmet for this build. It grants simply absurd extra damage for several Chaos Orbs, so we will not even try to list alternatives. If you don't have it yet though, just get a random rare with defensive stats. The enchantments here are less relevant, so possibly take one to increase the effect of selected curse. Asphyxia's Wrath is a cheaper alternative to a rare quiver that offers high bonus cold damage based on your physical one. Torchoke Step is an inexpensive pair of boots that increases the maximum life of your totems and as a result, your DPS output. It provides very low defensive stats, so keep that in mind. This pair of gloves is not recommended for our setup, however, it's one of the most popular alternatives to using Eldritch Battery and Tinkerskin. It will have you pay life instead of traps mana cost, and allows you to scale cast speed instead of trap throwing speed on your gear and passives. Ashes of the Stars is one of the best unique amulets in the game and works for this build perfectly. You might not be able to use extra auras thanks to it, but it can save you some mana efficiency passives which can be spent elsewhere. Also, Devouring Totem benefits greatly from the increased quality in this particular case. This pair of unique jewels can further boost the damage or survivability of your character. Polymath is the best when it comes to DPS but it's quite expensive, while Heartstopper greatly supplements this build with its damage reduction buffs at a very low price. There are plenty of interesting mods for all three auras that you are using on the Watcher's Eye Jewel. Haterid and Determination ones are the most desirable. Like for example, increased cold damage while affected by determination. There are plenty of interesting mods for all three auras that you are using on the Watcher's Eye Jewel. Hatred and Determination ones are the most desirable. Like for example increased cold damage while affected by hatred or flat armor while affected by determination. All you need is an item with a crucible tree and the mod that will cause your totems to explode upon death, dealing 600% of their maximum life as physical damage. The rest of your equipment will consist of rare items with generic defensive mods, as the possible affixes allowing you to scale your damage are greatly limited here. You are looking for a bow with the crucible mod that will cause your totems to explode. Then you should roll a +1 to the level of socketed gems and multi-mod it for +2 to the level of socketed support gems and trap throwing speed. It's recommended to craft it with Essences of Fear for extra minion damage, which applies to you thanks to the spiritual aid node. A good Vile Arrow Quiver can add tons of extra elemental and chaos damage. It can also carry extra defensive mods and possibly a chance to gain Onslaught on kill, giving you an extra flask space. A rare body armor can offer a lot of defensive stats, and potentially boost the effect of your auras like Hatred or Determination. Rare boots. On your boots, simply look for generic defensive stats with high movement speed. You can also try getting a bonus to action speed from Searing Exarch implicit. On your pair of gloves, you will need 60% damage converted to cold, or as close to that as possible. You can also live with less and have Watcher's Eye with Hatred modifier convert the rest. For the belt, it's best to pick Stygian Vice for the extra abyssal socket. You should look for a high life bonus here, and possibly extra armor and strength. Other than that, you can get some resistance or global physical, elemental damage mods. On your amulet, you should aim to get +1 to the level of all skill gems, which is used to increase the maximum life of your devouring totem. Other than that, look for standard defensive stats like life, resistance, and possibly increased global armor rating. For the anointment, you should pick Ironwood, which is the best possible option. Rare rings should fulfill all your needs for resistances and attributes, as they can have a lot to them while not offering much in terms of offenses for this build. On the Abyss Jewel, just look for extra life, armor, attributes, and resistances. There aren't many particularly powerful mods here that will boost your DPS. Rare jewels are with extra life, resistances, and attributes. You can also get global physical damage if you want some minor damage bonuses here. Atziri's Promise offers a lot of extra chaos damage based on all three types of damage Totem Explosion will cause, the base physical, and converted cold and fire. Taste of Hate grants a high bonus cold damage based on your physical damage and offers very powerful defensive utility, reducing physical and cold damage taken. Bottled Faith is one of the best utility flasks in Path of Exile. It grants a high damage multiplier and allows you to benefit from consecrated ground, but since it's expensive and you don't benefit from extra crit, getting it is optional. For magic flasks, we recommend getting Life Flask with bleeding removal, Quicksilver Flask with increased movement speed or random ailment and curse removal, and Granite Flask with extra armor rating on the suffix, to boost your survivability. Devouring totems are your main source of damage, as they have the highest base life and the explosions they cause will be more punishing. You will be summoning them via traps, aiming at summoning as many at once as possible. This gem should be socketed in the recommended bow, and supported by Trap, Empower, Cluster Traps, multiple totems, and multiple traps gems, to maximize the number of totems created with each cast. This build uses two permanent auras for the purpose of defense, which are Determination and Vitality. Determination increases your armor rating significantly, reducing incoming physical damage from hits, and Vitality increases your life regeneration rate, which is yet another core defensive layer used here. The latter may be particularly important if you are paying life to cast your traps. If you want to use this build to farm Uber bosses mainly, you may need to replace Determination with Discipline to help you sustain your energy shield while spamming traps. And most big physical hits will most likely kill you there anyway. You are also going to use up to 3 Herald skills, which are a great way to scale the DPS and clear speed of this entire build. Herald of Purity increases your base physical damage, granting you a powerful, more, multiplier. Herald of Ash increases your fire spell damage, but also grants added fire damage based on the physical one initially caused by exploding totems. With all the Herald-related nodes, those abilities will reserve very small amount of your mana, so you may use Herald of Ice as well. It boosts your cold damage, but also causes area explosions when you kill frozen enemies, increasing your clear speed. Sadly, the added cold damage bonus doesn't work in this case, but it wouldn't change much anyway. All the listed auras can be linked to Enlightened Support Gem if needed. If you are playing this build with Eldritch Battery, and that's the optimal way, you will be able to use an extra aura as a temporary blessing skill. Select Hatred for it, which massively boosts your DPS. It increases your cold damage globally, but also via additional conversion. Link it to Divine Blessing Support Gem, and if you need to reduce the cost, possibly also Inspiration Support. To further boost your life regeneration, you can have a Stone Golem summoned by cast when damage taken gem. It will also instantly kill enemies below 10% life if you link it to Culling Strike support. This build doesn't exactly need curses, but if you want you can use Elemental Weakness for some extra damage or Enfeeble Temporal Chains for better defenses. Either of those might need to be cast manually. Flame Dash is the recommended movement skill for this build, which allows you to travel quickly or avoid incoming damage. You can link those two gems to faster casting support, and possibly Hex Bloom support, which will cause the linked curse to spread further when you kill cursed enemies, reducing the number of times you have to cast it manually. Steel Skin is the recommended guard skill for this build, which grants a protective barrier that blocks some incoming damage and removes bleeding. Allocate it under your left mouse button so that it is cast automatically when you play. For the bandits, your only viable option is to kill all of them for 2 extra passive points. When it comes to the Pantheon choices, it will be best to pick Soul of the Brine King as the major one. Not only it offers extra stun resistance, which you may be lacking, but it will also grant you freeze avoidance when upgraded. Since your build offers tons of life regeneration, shock and ignite immunity, the number of valuable options for minor gods is limited. You can take Ralakesh for physical mitigation, or Yugal for reduced effect of curses on you. When it comes to the passive tree, please keep in mind that it is impossible to level up this character using the core mechanics, the exploding totems. It's recommended to level using regular traps, and to find out more details about how to do it efficiently, you can check our shadow leveling guide with trap skills. We have a text version on our website, as well as video one on YouTube. You should disregard the allocation order presented here entirely. On the passive tree, you will be focusing mainly on life and cold damage nodes. You can't exactly have the explosions critically hit, nor will they benefit from spell damage nodes, so it's the most preferred way to scale your damage. You should take Expeditious Munitions with Trap Mastery, allowing your traps to occasionally trigger twice. Snowforged is also very powerful as it increases both types of damage you deal with explosions, and the Mastery that has a small chance to add 300% of physical damage of random element is particularly powerful. You should also take Winter's Embrace to freeze enemies constantly, and allocate the Cold Conversion Mastery. If this passive alone is not enough to consistently freeze Uber bosses, you may need to sacrifice some of the life and suppression nodes to also take Flesh Freeze on the bottom part of the passive tree. You should also take Discord Artisan and Presage to use all 3 recommended heralds, and take the long route to the left side, to get Primal Manifestation with Totem Mastery, increasing the numbers of totems you will be spawning, Sovereignty for mana reservation efficiency, and Spiritual Aid if you have minion damage on your bow. That is all for this guide. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button and see you in the next video.